Mark, I've got a quick question for you from one of our members. It's from Megan in Australia. Just a quick fire question. Could you offer, please, a program advice for her for building her horse's fitness under saddle for strength and endurance? So tips for a program.
I won't give you a full program, but I think the biggest thing, strength and endurance. So all my leading rein work and everything we do is trying to get a horse to use its body better. So, turn correctly so it's using its hindquarter more, being more aware of its body, things like that. And that's I think, part of the strength building. It's like, mind you, we can get strong by being in a bad posture, but eventually you might do your back in, same with a horse. So getting it to use itself properly with its hindquarter underneath it, So the way I sort of build good conformation and strengthen that good conformation is how I turn the horse, so a good back up, a good turn, like back up, step over to turn, look into the turn softly, a nice hindquarter yield. Like if you're just looking at the basics, where the horse lifts its wither, steps its hind feet underneath nicely to do a nice hindquarter yield. A bad hindquarter yield would be dump all its weight on the front, jam down that inside front foot and roll the hip out and spread its hind feet out while it's doing it. So just a basic good hindquarter yield in hand, under saddle, a good turnaround, like where a horse can rock back, step over, just turn in a way that it's using its hindquarters underneath it. That's really important. So, and then in between, when you're working your horse, if you let your horse go out on a loose rein for too long, ends up on the forehand. So if it's a horse that sort of ends up on its forehand all the time, you might tend to want to pick it up a little bit, step it over, walk for a little bit, pick it up, step it over. But the biggest thing for good strength and endurance is walking is a great thing to start off with horses, as long as you're not just letting them get like the biggest thing is don't let your horses get tired when they're just sort of compensating in a bad way, poor posture, things like that. And I know a lot of people years ago when I was doing a lot of endurance horses, that trained endurance horses, the people who took it really seriously did a lot of walking on their young horses. They did miles of walking, and that was just strengthening the feet, strengthening the legs, strengthening the horses without tiring them out. But I say in that walking, you have to put a lot of good rein body control in there. So you're getting the horse, every time you pick up on the reins, it's not trouble, it's not hollowing out, things like that. And then trotting is the next exercise that I think is really good for horses. But I would say to strengthen horses, I think terrain is very good too. So, your uphills, your downhills, creating good proprioception, not just trailing them out on a straight road where they're just plomping along. I used to find that going up hills that they climb a little bit, they scramble a little bit, and down hills and over logs, and it builds up that adjustability, proprioception, the strength in going up the hills and things like that. So if you can find things like that to work your horses, that's really good. And if it's a horse that you haven't ridden yet, like sometimes we want to strengthen a horse before we ride them. Well, think of all those things. Where can I lead my horse? Don't just run it around on a lunge. Like, what can I do? Can I lead it off the quad somewhere, and then maybe take it over some hills and different things like that, and just build some strength and stuff like that, and just do it incremental and build it over a steady amount of time. Just don't get them tired. It's like, don't run till you're super tired all the time. Maybe run till you're feeling like, oh, I'm starting to feel a little bit like I've worked myself, and then back off a little bit. And I think with horses you do that because you don't want to sour them in fitting them either.
How many times a week would you work them, ideally?
Oh, well, it depends on how much time you got. Like, I know the people that used to get serious, they were starting to train them 5 times a week. But I think if you could work a horse 3 times a week, 4 times a week, just to do some stuff, that's a good start. You got to be reasonable what you can do. But as I say, I think like I was having a conversation about something the other day, and what age to start a horse, and I said, well, how has your horse just sat in a 1 acre paddock and just drank from the trough and stood in the stable and that's all it's done, or is it been a horse so that a 2-year-old horse might have been running on 5,000 acres of hilly country with a big mob, and that horse has got good bone density, its feet are strong, everything's strong and fit because of the work that it's done for the last 2 years, natural organic work, whereas the other 2-year-old has sat in a 1 acre paddock. It's almost like someone who's just sat on the couch and then says, okay, now you're going to be started. So I know the growth plates, the last ones don't set till they're over 6, but you've got to look at also the environmental strengthening that's happened to a lot of horses. And if you don't have that, I guess that's why people buy walkers and stuff like that, to give their horses that steady, and they call them walkers for a reason. And I think that's why walking's so good for horses is, they're not always putting horses in a walker and putting on faster for them to trot all the time. Just giving that good exercise where they're walking and moving and things like that. So
fantastic. I hope that helps for your tips.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast. This episode is one of hundreds more. So if you are interested in learning all about how Mark trains and changes horses' mindsets, and yes, he really does do that, so that they are more open and willing, listen to another. They are packed with practical insights that everyone can use.